How's it going, everybody? I don't think last video's weekend got uploaded. I thought it did, so I'm going to quickly recap the thing that I wanted to say last week on Friday, which is the biggest thing working against DC Comics film universe right now is the attachment to the Christopher Nolan style gritty realism aesthetic. And let me just be clear, I love those movies, but there's a certain amount of issue that you're gonna have running into where those movies, as good as they are, they only work in certain ideas. The Joker as like a homeless guy with guns and explosives, that works. Bane as this masked commando, League of Assassins, like version of ISIS, where he's going to take over a city and all that with stolen Wayne merchandise. That was not realistic. And they tried to make it realistic, and it fell short because the aesthetic doesn't support it. So, the things that worked in the DC movies are, and there's only a handful of movies compared to Marvel, but Warner Brothers forever had, I shouldn't say 100%, but they had everyone beat on superheroes, because the Tim Burton Batman movies were great. They hit the ground running, but the drawback is it established some tropes. You see, I wish someone would play Arkham Asylum and say, this is how we do a Batman movie. We're not going to have, like, the way they present it is, you're Batman, you know Batman, we're going to introduce you to the characters by, you have to meet up with that person, we're going to give you a quick few lines about their backstory, and we're going to educate the audience at their own leisure, which you can't do, but, like, you learn on the fly. We didn't see the origin for... Alright, let me get ahead of myself. Let me be clear. I want the extended... I want the universe of DC movies to happen. I don't care if it's interconnected, but I want to know that they all happen in the same universe, and eventually they will all form to make the super movie that you see with Avengers. Now, I want to see, like, worlds collide. I don't want to see build-up, because they can't do build-up. Like, they're trying to do... and Marvel did it really slow. Like, when they were doing Civil War, like, I know they did it to set up Infinity War, but you really got the sense that Infinity War was going to be the third Avengers movie when they said, oh, Age of Ultron is going to be the second Avengers movie. And just like Marvel, like, has a lot of fat on it. It's good fat. It's tasty fat, but it's fat. So with DC, they were going to try and do it in a sort of trilogy where you're introduced to Superman. Great. He's the first, like, legitimate superhero that, like, was bigger than anything in the 40s. Okay, so you have Superman. You're introduced to him as a science fiction story. You're not introduced to him as a superhero story. Say what you will about how he handles himself, but this is the formation of Superman. And they went heavy on the Jesus references, like the hero's journey, all that stuff. They were following that archetype, and like I want to say that was all Zack Snyder, because like they went to a guy who does R-rated movies and said, "Hey, can you do Superman for us?" So it starts with Man of Steel, and it's produced by Nolan as well as others, and it has their input, and they have David S. Goyer, who's, to me at this point, he's the old guard of superheroes, which it's not that he sucks, it's just that his way of doing things, like he understands story structure, but he's not really good at making movies, if that makes any sense. Blade Trinity is the one that he directed. He was around for all the Blade movies, but Blade Trinity is the one he directed. And he's not as good a director as he is a story maker. So take that as you will. And the problem that people are running into, I think, is that the stories they're getting are the characters that they want, but they're not getting the richness of the comics, because the really good movies distill all the stories into the essence of the character. So it's as simple as that. Jared Leto's Joker, you've never seen a Joker like that before, and they didn't do him any favors by cutting him out of the movie for the most part. Like, the Joker is a side story in the movie, and that was a dumbass idea. Like you have these movies that build up to this CG fest, and it's not that they are bad scenes or bad endings or what have you. It's just that everyone's doing it. Man of Steel, like, did CG well because it was Zod versus Superman. It was Superman getting his ass kicked by the Kryptonians. Things like that. Suicide Squad. Once Enchantress, like, takes over the city, it's like CG fest. Ends in a big CG fest battle. Wonder Woman. As much CG was in the No Man's Land scene, it was awesome. It was like, it was on my list of the best movies, scenes like I've ever seen for superheroes, because superheroes, like, in a movie should tell you why you want them around without saying why you want them around. Perfect example, Iron Man. Iron Man, I don't care what anyone says, my favorite scene in Iron Man is the town's getting raided, and a family is being lined up to be killed, and they're pulling the father away, and you got the kids like screaming, "Dad, Dad, Dad," and up in the sky there's Iron Man just flying right in, and he just stops it. Like, it's wishful thinking in the form of a hero just showing up and saving the day. There was the Tim Burton's Batman movie, there was a lot of that because it took Batman and it treated him not as realistic as Nolan did, but there was a lot of Tim Burton in there, and it was like just the realness of it. I think the Batman movie came out with the Gatling gun for, not the Gatling, but you know what I'm talking about, like the hook gun that allows him to, whatever. But here's my criticisms of the Batman movies. From Tim Burton on, Batman always revealed his identity to the villain. The villain died, and then the villain died, and Batman always found a way to use a gun. Always. And here's where my defense of Suicide Squad, you'll never get me to back off this point. It was the most Batman we've ever had. Didn't reveal his identity, saved Harley Quinn, because Batman saves as many people as he can, and then never used a gun. So, say what you will about Suicide Squad, that was Batman. So, then you get Batman versus Superman, which has issues. I have yet to see the director's cut, but the Snyder cut of that, everyone I look at and talk to says there was more Superman being Superman and more Batman being Batman in that one. But still, same flaw. Awesome Batman fight scenes, like more. The Batman fight scenes in the Nolan movies were not that great. They were shot to work around the fact that like Christian Bale was in a suit that hindered his mobility. With the Nolan movies, I will say this. Dark Knight, Batman versus the SWAT team, where he's using gadgets, where he's using strategy to save people, that was my favorite one. Batman Begins, where he's not even fighting, he's just taking people out, and it works like a horror movie where he's just stalking people, he's hanging upside down. It's like, here, that was awesome. So when Justice League went through the issues that it did, there's stories that saying that Zack Snyder got fired off of Justice League even before they announced Joss Whedon was going to be doing the reshoots, or before Snyder stepped down. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. You can't middle your way to greatness. If you think you got a bomb on your hands, lean into it. Because you can either be really bad or really good. You don't want to be in the middle, because you're going to be okay. You'll make a little bit of money. And that film, everyone says they rushed it. No, they didn't rush it. They just didn't trust themselves. They didn't trust. If they had kept the original plan for Justice League, because I've read articles on what the Snyder Cut would have been, and I don't know how I would have loved it, but it sounds awesome, because they brought on a bigger way the Green Lantern Corps. They brought in Darkseid, who was a better villain, because if you just have Steppenwolf, the first question you're going to have when you hear, oh, Steppenwolf's the villain, it's like, who? The band? Magic Carpet Ride? So they didn't trust themselves to do good, and the studio, whoever was in charge, they still said the exact same thing that to Snyder that they said to Whedon. It was like, can't do that. It'll be too long. It'll be too long. People that see movies want to see good movies. Dances with Wolves, years ago, came out the year after, Kim Basinger, Michelle Pfeiffer. I don't think it was Michelle Pfeiffer, but whoever it was that was in the Caveman movie where they didn't speak English and they had subtitles, where it was like, ooh, and it was like a 2.5 hour movie where no one understood a goddamn thing, and they're like, oh god, this is the biggest bomb of all time. No one's the rules are it's got to be in English. It can't be in another language. Oh god, it's too long. Dances with Wolves comes out. Kevin Costner's young heartthrob, decent actor. Then you have like the Indian languages, and you have an interesting story that you understand what's going on, like that, like broke all the rules that they said don't do. So if you have a good movie, then you have a good movie. It's as simple as that. So the thing is, they got to start treating the DC movies and as new pieces of cinema. They can't continue on with, and I don't know how the hell they do it. Like, they have to take a lot of people's egos, because there's a lot of people that either own the rights, but like Michael Uslan has been a producer on every Batman appearance over the last 30 years. And like, I'm not saying it's his fault, but like if you're the guy in charge ultimately, then what the hell? So, and I want to say this to anyone: forget anyone that says the DC characters aren't cinematic enough. It's like, dude, that is the lamest. Like, if you're saying that they're not cinematic enough, then how the hell do they work on so many goddamn levels? If the cartoons work, that means the live action can work. If, like, hell, just treat them like the cartoons. Like, take a cartoon script and say, hey, animate this. No, we're going to cast people and we're going to do it live action. Simple as that. Because I heard Mark Miller say it. I'm thinking to myself, like, not to shit on Mark Miller, but when the hell did that guy have an original idea? Like, every series that he's put out in the last 5 or 6 years has been a ripoff of something else. I want to say Kick-Ass was the most original concept he's had in a long-ass time, and he ruined that one in the second volume by making it more like the movies. Like, it used to be the greatest line about bad adaptations of comics was, at least we still have the comics. It's like, no, that motherfucker actually changed it so that it would be more like the movies. Pissed me off. Which, by the way, still a good writer. Like, he knows how to write them. I mean, when he did Superior with Francis Lano Yu, I mean, that was the greatest Captain Marvel story, or Shazam, whatever, that DC hadn't put out. That, like, Empress, or the one where it's like the mother and wife of a intergalactic despot, like, that was Star Wars, but like, but not like that was like a cross between like a mob wife taking her kids and running off with the driver and Star Wars, because I only read the first issue. I don't know how many issues came out afterwards, but it was good. But the guy knows what he's doing, and he knows how to write, but at the same time, he's had primo, the best artists to work with. And, alright, real quick, because I have a minute left, my goal is I'm going to upload the video from last week, then I'm going to upload this video. Guys, I'm doing an RPG saga. I'm playing Mario RPG and the Legend of the Seven Stars. I'm trying to get it so that I can narrate the games that I'm playing with video, but it's probably, I don't know, I did something and one video didn't turn out right, so I got to figure out what the hell went wrong. But otherwise, I'm just going to do a commentary on it until I figure out how to get things working. So, peace.